Sweet. Okay. After the satellites, welcome back to Mastery Mondays. This is number 20. We have a really interesting one today, and I'll also preface this by saying, like, I noticed my style of teaching is more like a TED Talk style instead of really like engaging. But I'm trying to add more elements of engagement, so bear with me here. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about the psychology of luck. So I think I'm pretty well equipped to talk about this because I've gone through the last a little over 1.5 years believing I'm running very bad. That could be a hybrid of things, like I might have emphasized my run bad. Anyway, we're going to talk more about that like as we go through this lesson today. But needless to say, I think after researching and learning more about this, it's probably like 10% chance I'm running bad, and the other percentage is just I'm a bad player or I'm making mistakes. So that's probably what's happening. But yeah, we're going to talk about these few topics. What is luck? Some real world luck stories. The Power of Superstition, where it kind of came from, as well as the Luck Project by Richard Wiseman. He wrote a book about it. And then he talks about the 4 principles of luck and then how he used this to help participants improve their luck for their lives. And what does that mean for us, and how do we apply it to poker? And then we can take some questions after that. So yeah, what do you guys think? What is luck? You guys have any idea?
Well, I like to think it's probability
Okay.
of an event happening.
Okay. Probability. Anyone else?
I don't know how much this applies to poker, but I always say like luck is a combination of an opportunity and then the skills to seize upon that opportunity.
Okay.
Just like randomness, variance.
Yeah. Okay. To put it simply, like it started off with a lot of people thinking it's like, is it magical or logical? Is it random or can we influence it? And so you guys all touched on a little piece of it. I think Victor got it like closest, which is just basically it's completely random. It's just like in Google's definition, a success or failure apparently brought by chance rather than through one's own actions. But we're going to talk about all the actions that can lead to those opportunities or those moments that it's just pure chance left at that point. So there's some real world luck stories. I don't know if you guys have ever heard. There's this guy named Barnett Hellsberg Jr. who ran like a jewelry company back in the day, and then this was like in the 1900s. And then he was just running his franchises, and then he heard someone yell Mr. Buffett outside the hotel, and then he didn't know what Buffett looked like at the time. We didn't have all the internet was just being introduced, and so there wasn't all this like information out there. He had no idea, but he decided to take a chance, go out and see who it was, and then he decided to introduce himself, and it turns out it actually was Warren Buffett. And then that chance meeting led to him, Warren Buffett, eventually buying out that company a year later. Then there's another guy who's a Stanford psychologist. He skipped studying one day to go play golf with his buddy. He met a up or down. Okay, sweet. Thank you. And he met a woman by chance, and then later got married. There was also some other situations where, you know, if you put yourself out there, go to a networking event, you might also meet the love of your life. You know, in like Victor's case, I heard your story was you worked with Helen first at a company, then you guys like traveled to Australia together, something like that, and then you guys fell in love, and then, you know, that stuff happened, right? So all of these real world examples is like you have to actually take some kind of action to get to a certain and take that opportunity, and then when left up to it, it's all basically randomness and chance of whether it actually succeeds or fails and produces that type of result. So where to start from? Well, the Power of Superstition it's that a lot of people in the past few centuries and even some millennia, they all relied a lot on these things called lucky charms, rituals, talismans, and whatever. They thought like black cats, ladder that walked by, ladders, and number 13. Even for like Chinese people, some number 14 fours rather. They're all considered bad luck. But what they found is those were just like beliefs and biases built up over time of people just talking about it to each other and like thinking, oh, there was biases built up as they were saying, oh, this stuff happens, and then they would purposely watch for that particular result to reaffirm that bias. But what ended up happening is that surveys showed that at least right now, 53% of Americans admit to being superstitious, and 72% of them say they own some type of lucky charm. And Wiseman started off this entire 10-year scientific journey by testing these beliefs first, and he found that nope, they had absolutely no measure whatsoever and effect on the luck, nor on the happiness, satisfaction, or at all. But one thing is for sure, these lucky charms tend to give you some kind of psychological comfort, but they don't actually change outcomes whatsoever. And it seems that the power of luck can transform lives, and that's why so many people notice this magical thing that happened centuries ago when they didn't have a way to describe it. They noticed it changed lives, that if you're lucky, you have a more prosperous life. If you're unlucky, you had a worse life. So now, fast forward to modern day, Richard Wiseman is trying to test these things out. So what did he find? He started the Luck Project, and he noticed that in one particular study where he brought in 400 people, half of them believed that they were considered lucky, the other half believed they were unlucky, and they would look at a newspaper and then tell the experimenter how many photos did they find, right? The unlucky people took 2 minutes to go through that entire newspaper, and they found 43 photos, and the ones that considered themselves lucky, they took just a few seconds. What was the difference? The ones that were unlucky, they tediously went through every single page of that newspaper, and the ones that considered themselves lucky, they found on the second page in big bold words that took up half of that newspaper. There's 43 photos in this newspaper. You can stop looking for it now. And then there's another part in that newspaper halfway across that newspaper, and also in big bold letters that took half that page, saying if you tell the experimenter right now that there's this result, and you can win $250. So what happened is the unlucky people, they were so focused and narrow-minded on what it is they were seeing in their perspective. But then the lucky people, they opened their eyes wider and they saw all the different opportunities that could arise as they're doing something. So they noticed those texts and they took advantage of those opportunities. That's at least what happened with the analysis. So then he noticed all this, and he came up with 4 different principles based on his findings, which is to maximize chance opportunities, listen to lucky hunches, expect good fortune, and turn bad luck into good. In his words, he said creating and noticing chance opportunities. So it just simply means for us to, again, whether it's poker or in life, we would just go out there, meet new people, give ourselves more chances to see different things, and then be more open-minded to discovering these types of opportunities. It's interesting because with poker, I noticed that in the last year and a half, whenever I thought about a hand, even though I tried my hardest to, I thought it was really narrowly just about emotional control and regulation. But then when I started looking at the nuances, I'm completely keeping myself composed, but then I'm still thinking about how that bad beat went, and I'm getting stuck on that, and I'm not thinking about the next hand properly at all. And then I start tunnel visioning more, and I believe I'm I have bad luck, I'm running worse, and then I just keep perpetuating that throughout the rest of the session. And then in my personal life, I actually noticed that like I'm always very, very open-minded, and somehow like things start to unravel in what seems like on the surface, if people were to just like look at my life, it's like, oh, like he's pretty lucky. And I thought, what is the difference between my personal life and professional life versus like specifically poker? One, I completely feel like I'm running bad, and the other, I feel like I'm really, really lucky. So this is also what got me to like research all of this in the first place. Keep an open mind, and then just explore new experiences. So watch out for those. Then the next thing is listen to your lucky hunches, or what he said is make lucky decisions based on your intuition. So you want to trust your intuition, and that skill can grow. We'll talk more about how that skill can grow, but because not everyone's intuition is necessarily like tuned well quite yet, but you can work on it. Then you can reflect on decisions and past outcomes. So in like poker terms, that's like reviewing hands and like really thinking about is like, were you a favorite in that hand, aces versus whatever other hand, you're an 80% favorite, you got it all in, great. But then at the very, very last card, was it just chance, or did you that you got sucked out, or suddenly the result is bad and therefore you played bad, or you always run bad? It's not the case, right? So we have, and then the other is expect good fortune. You want to visualize it, kind of expect it, and then you also want to like prime your mind to always like expect for it. You want to, whenever they're in the study, and also from as Wiseman was explaining some of his experiences talking to people, the people that had that perceive themselves to be lucky, even though they know sometimes they just run bad, but they don't let it get to them, and then they just think, how am I lucky from this experience? It could have been worse, all these other things. Yeah, they really turn bad luck into good luck, reframing losses at, oh sorry, 1 second, yes. Reframe losses as lessons. So there's an Olympic study where they noticed like the bronze medalists are often happier than silver medalists. And that's because like the silver medalists, they thought if I did just a little bit better, I could have won that gold medal. But bronze medalists, they thought of it as like, I'm really happy that I got a bronze medal. Like if I did like, it could have been worse. If I did it a little bit worse, I would have won nothing at all. So there was a bit of a difference in the way they perceived themselves there. There was another one with a bank robbery experiment where you asked kind of like a hypothetical, and it's like, when imagining being shot in the arm during a robbery, unlucky people would focus on their misfortune. Totally, like that's totally unlucky, right? But lucky people said, at least I didn't die, and maybe I can use the story and sell and make money off of it. So lucky people tend to spontaneously reframe bad events very, very frequently, which boosts also long-term happiness and satisfaction and persistence in their lives. So he just after learning all of these things, he took a handful of these participants, and then he would run what he called a luck school to teach them of his findings to see if it would actually make a difference. Prior to that, people he would have them write in journals like what happened over like a month's period of time. Then he would give them these principles and tell them how they can read and then use some of these ways to change their lives. They tried it, and then after another month, they came back to revisit the subject. People who were unlucky suddenly felt like they were lucky in life, and people who were already feeling like they were lucky, they felt like they were even luckier now. So this was also really interesting because 80% of those participants became happier and more satisfied and luckier, all in that 1 month's period of time. And then it seems like you don't need magic, but you need what we always believe to be true, like mindset, behavior, and emotional flexibility. So what does that really mean for poker? Well, simple things that we've talked about in the past is like tracking your hands, but also doing it as objectively as possible. Thinking like, again, if you were a favorite, but then you lost that hand, are you just always running bad? No, it's like you got it in as a favorite. You made the right actions all the way to that point, but then what happened with that opportunity? What kind of luck or chance like fell upon that particular opportunity? And you know, you could have gotten sucked out, you could have gotten lucky, but you can't let all of that define all of the luck that in your entire life. And tell yourself to be flexible with observing and looking for a good table. I ran after like a few things that happened with me. I was checking in to see if my mental was good, playing some poker, and then I thought I was rolling really bad because I basically had losing sessions like 90% of the time. And then I did some of this research, learned more about luck, and then I played the satellite. And then I won the satellite and then got into the final table, the qualifier. And what I noticed is precisely that. I did not let any, and it wasn't like a walk in the park either. It wasn't like a sun run. No matter what I did, I won every hand. It was like an up and down battle. I thought what was a good hand to play. I played it. I would lose some hands and win some hands as well. And I just battled it out and I ended up winning. And I was really quick to like focus in and lock in on that particular hand and think of like and paying attention to every single player and think about all the potential exploits I can take from that particular hand and the particular spot. And then once that hand was done, moved on to the next one. I just kept doing that, and I was really, really, really sharp for the entire satellite. I was really I really appreciated how I played that day, but when it went to the qualifier, I still played well in the first half, and then nearing the second half, a bunch of different things happened that got to my head, and then I started playing worse, and I noticed all of these previous habits, unlucky thoughts creeping back into my mind, and then I also started playing worse. So like it's becoming more clear to me that we have a lot more control towards our opportunities than we initially believed. We can't just say generally, like in a nutshell, like we're just unlucky or lucky. Okay. Yeah. So like for the application of poker, it could be something like look around a little bit, observe to see what looks like a good table, and then commit yourself to it. You don't have to get to the first table right away. And then when you're playing the hands, don't get stuck on every hand and keep your eyes locked in for the next opportunity, right? How do you exploit the next villain or the next player? What are their mental states and things like that. And then build your intuition. This is the part where you can work on it, but by reviewing hands after the fact. By doing so, then your intuition will naturally get sharper and you'll be just quicker at making these decisions. So that's what I mean. If people don't have enough experience, their intuition's naturally not going to be that sharp. So don't necessarily follow your gut intuition until you refine it a little bit more. And you have like a pretty good, humble understanding of where your ability's at, what was that actual, in reality, what was that particular spot, then you can make a pretty good, tuned, intuitive judgment. Let's see here. But yeah, that's really, that's really it. After that, it's just chance. It's just chance. Obviously, it's gonna happen. Sometimes you're just gonna, when it finally comes down to that one final card, it could simply be unlucky, but again, don't let it define you. So that's what I've noticed from my research. There's a book, the Luck Factor by Richard Wiseman. You can read that book as well. And then there's also a short 5-page PDF that discusses kind of more in detail of his particular findings and the specific examples and more in depth of those stories. So yeah, if you want that, I can link you that as well. Yeah, cool. Any questions?
How has this research on luck changed your mentality in poker? Like, do you still feel like you are unlucky in poker, or what? Yeah, what has changed?
So, I think from previous negative mindsets and possibly attitudes, it's still there, but now I'm like working on overriding it, and I was really conscious about it when I was playing that satellite, and it has helped greatly in that satellite. I think I'm starting to. One other thing I'm doing too is I'm not talking about how badly I run anymore with people at all, because I noticed that will just kind of like perpetuate the negative mindset. So that has helped in my everyday life. I started like reframing a lot of different things in my life too. It's like, oh yeah, I lost 4K in 2 sessions recently, but it was a good thing because like now I'm reframing it as like it could have been worse. I could have lost 10 or 20K or whatever in like 2 sessions or 1 session, and by losing that 4K, it made me stop and think about what's going on, and it literally pushed me to go study the concept of luck. And so now I have a better idea of what luck is all about. So that's another example right there of why losing 4K seems unlucky to most people, but losing 4K to me, and after reframing it, was lucky for me. It humbled me as well. It humbled me to think like there's something wrong here. I can't constantly be unlucky for 1.5 years. There's something I'm doing wrong. So yeah, I would say it's definitely changed my mindset, and I'm starting to reframe everything, starting to think of myself as lucky.
This is reminding me a lot of a podcast I listened to on the power of positive thinking. And basically like a lot of the things you're saying is like very much similar. So I guess what would you see as the breakdown? Like how much of this is like luck, probability, and how much of this is just positive thinking?
So prior to learning about this, I had a very positive mindset just like on my life, and I think that's why I got lucky. Because like whenever I go out and network, for example, for my previous companies, I would like just talk to everyone and hear what they did, and then I would automatically try to overlap, see if there's any overlap between their business and mine, if we can somehow work out some kind of partnership and expand, right? And I didn't look at the nuance of luck, but how it applies now after researching about this is that every time you go out and meet someone new, and then you find out there's an opportunity there to become new friends with them, or there's some kind of business opportunity, you have now taken hold of like that particular opportunity. How it actually turns out and what it results from, there will be kind of like a dash of luck, put it that way. So another example is like specifically to poker, is like when you play every single hand, right? Every single hand has an element of luck into it. So to put it simply to answering your question, it applies to everything. When you play that hand, then you make all the right decisions. If you look at the probabilities, you're like an 80% favorite, and then when it finally comes down to that last card, it is only luck, only chance that of what that card will be, right? There's nothing we can do about it at that point. But what we can control is all the actions leading up to that final showdown. And so it applies. I think it applies just to like everything. But how we navigate it is I think what we want to work on. Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
sort of. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I guess just to like rephrase the question or the statement a little bit, is like it seems like a lot of the key pieces, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of like the key things that you've been talking about is really just about like reframing things in a positive way, and not like not telling yourself I have bad luck, I have this, I have that, and just constantly having that like positive attitude. So I guess like, yeah, like is there maybe something deeper here than just good luck, bad luck, or is this like, do you see it as two separate concepts maybe?
Good luck, bad luck. No, there's no like from what I've studied, there's no way to control the actual luck factor at all.
Right.
Like luck itself, you cannot control. And then I looked back at that Google definition; it's pretty accurate. Let's whoops. Go back to that definition. Where is it? Yeah, if we go back to this definition, success or failure apparently brought by chance, and then through randomness. I think is it's exactly that. We cannot control it whatsoever. But what seems to be the only thing we can control is literally everything leading up to it. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Okay.
And I focus a lot in my own life on like what it is I can control and can't control. And then I think I've just come to accept that like gravity we can't control. Luck like the core of what luck is we cannot control. But if you are to like add the definition of like what leads to luck, those are the things, or rather, like what it's like luck applies onto the opportunities that you get.
Right.
I think that's how you have to think about it. Luck
Yeah.
itself cannot be controlled,
Right.
but luck applies onto every single opportunity that you get. And the more you go out and explore things and are curious about things and meet new people and whatever else, the more opportunities you will get.
Right. Yeah.
I think you have to think of it that way.
Yeah. For sure. No, yeah, and just like to go back to kind of what I was saying at the beginning, like it's opportunities, and you only get opportunities by putting yourself out there, but then you have to seize upon the opportunities when they are presented, right? Like in poker terms, you can't win a hand if you don't bet on it, right? Like
Right,
you
right.
need
You need
to
to
take
go-
that opportunity.
Yes, yes.
But ultimately, you never know what the next card is going to be.
Yes, exactly.
I think a big
Interesting, yeah.
takeaway that you're sharing, Vince, is like you can't control luck at the end of the day, but there is value in believing that you are lucky. Because believing
Yes.
that you are lucky allows you to take more of these opportunities. And this is something I hear from like poker pros all the time, which is just like so much of poker and like longevity is just staying in the game,
Yes.
right? Because like for those who were at that Tuesday with Sam Greenwood, like he's been a break-even player for the last 4 or 5 years, right? So you can like literally make zero profit from playing poker as a pro, and like in your mind perhaps that you're making good decisions, but like you just think about that, like variance is like a really crazy thing, and you can still like not realize what your expected value is over that, because especially when you're playing live, you can't nearly play enough volume for to truly like realize your expected value. But the thing you can't control is just like stay in the game, like
Yeah.
control your bankroll so that you can continue playing and put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Don't let your mentality deteriorate, because it's happened to me a bunch where it's like I lose and then I think I'm unlucky, and then that leads you to playing worse and it just becomes a big downward spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like a big fallacy that a lot of, or like bias that players fall into, is when they do lose, they over attribute it to luck, and when they win, they over attribute it to their own abilities. And both of those are very detrimental to your actual improvement as a poker player.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's just kind of like good mental models to remember.
Yes, and that's what you just said is like a lot of people tend to do that, right? And so, which is why I stated we should probably, when we track hands, review hands, talk about hands, we really need to be very clear and precise on like what we're talking about. It's like you don't probably start the hand review by saying like, oh, I'm just always unlucky or something like that. You want to just like talk about each individual action, and there's more likely than not, we probably made a bad decision somewhere there, but then let's say you made all the right decisions. When it finally comes down to it, it's luck's turn to take over, right? At that very, very final card. So, yeah, and it's true. The mental models is important, because how do you stay play this game sustainably? You need to stay resilient to not tear yourself down just because you're running unlucky. I know that whenever I at least in the past, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen as much in the future, I'm working towards it, is whenever I'm running what I believe to be unlucky, like I just ruminate for it forever while I'm on the table, and then I'm not even paying attention to other players anymore. There's like so many other things I'm not doing that I could take advantage of and exploit and try to just win more big blinds, win more hands. Yeah, so that's what I ended up doing like on the satellite on Saturday. I just didn't think about my run bats at all. Lost huge pot a few times, but that didn't stop me from just like, okay, I still have chips, it's fine, let's keep move on to the next one. And then that next hand, I just like focused on every single aspect of how can I win more blinds, win more chips. Yeah. Resilience.
What's your guys' like relationship with luck and like how you view it in your own game?
Yeah.
I mean, I usually try to not think of luck at all. I try to think about it as probabilities, is what I said. Like, once it's 80-20, right, I am going to lose 1 out of the 5 times. And if I do lose it at that point, it's bad luck or whatever. It's like one of those one times that happen. What I struggle with is when I'm like 15-20 blinds short and I get aces or kings, my first thought is, here we go. This is the best. That is something that I'm not able to just get rid of, because so many times it's happened in the past. Or maybe it's not happened so many times, maybe it's just happened once or twice and it's just stuck in the head.
Yeah.
That whenever you get 15 or 20, it's your time for the bad beat. Because if it's not a bad beat, if everybody just folds, you'll never remember it.
Yeah, yeah.
And even if you win, you'll probably never remember it. So
You're saying when you have 20 bigs and you
Yeah,
pick
we
up
have to-
aces, you're already expecting you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Oh.
that's like the first time. Here we go, in the sense that
Here we go again.
Yeah.
here we go. Yeah.
And I think it's because you also have like some kind of emotional attachment to that feeling,
Correct.
right? And you've seen it happen not just for yourself, but probably other people who have experienced it as well. And you're like, of course, that always happens.
And like you said, we never remember when we hold. We
Yeah,
only
that's
remember
true.
when the sour one comes in. And that
Yes,
right
yes.
comes in.
And I think that touches back on like what Victor said. Like they tend to, if they win, they tend to contribute it to their skills, and then when they lose, they tend to over-contribute it to luck. And that's not already in of itself not a fair evaluation of the entire situation. Right.
I had one other question about the superstition piece you touched on briefly at the beginning. I remember seeing something that said, like, on average, professional sports players like MLB or NBA or whatever are much more superstitious on average than the regular person.
Yeah.
So what do you see as the relationship of superstition and poker specifically? Like, do you see more superstition the higher up you go, or
So
how does that kind of tie in?
So like objectively, like the study just tells you that like it doesn't actually affect, but what the actual result. But what tends to happen and why people still keep it around is because it changes their personal psychology.
Okay.
And this goes back to like thinking positively about your future outcomes, right? If you just for whatever reason believe this lucky charm or talisman or whatever will bring you good luck, you're just already going into that opportunity or going into that event with a positive mindset, right? And you just believe you. And that's just inherently what we're trying to achieve with or without these lucky charms.
Right. So if I could maybe I feel like the key takeaway that I've gotten from this is like really just about that, like it's all about the mentality and the positive thinking.
At least
and,
that's
like,
what we can control.
luck,
Yeah.
The rest of it is kind of like don't worry about that. Don't think about that.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Just
at
think
all.
about how can you spin this positively.
I think it's important to at least acknowledge and think about it, because then you'll also have a very fair evaluation of how you played a hand, right?
Right.
You made all the right decisions, but at the very, very end, it was actually luck that took that made you lose that hand. It's okay. Like put that aside, and then now continue to work on all the things you can work on and control to creating more opportunities for yourself. Yeah.
Right.
And I think the higher levels you go, if they have that's probably why they're doing well at the highest levels, right? Because they have some way to give themselves that positive thinking that of all the situations that they're in, right? Whether it is an actual lucky charm or not, right? Something about their mindset is able to push them to those heights. I'm pretty sure if you have a pretty negative outlook on yourself and that you always run bad and whatever, you're not going to be at the Olympics. You know? Yeah. So I think that's how it affects. Yeah, it's a very interesting subject. Anyone else with their like luck experience? I know everyone's got one. No? Cool. That's it. That's it for me.
Maybe we